good evening and welcome to episode 1 of Excluded, a new series from Mondo Street Social Club. We've got Dan here, as usual, I know I was going to say something like you can't get rid of him no matter how hard we try, but he keeps turning up. And we're joined by Chris, who is a stand-up comedian who commutes between Portsmouth and Thailand. Welcome, Chris. How are you tonight?
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to meet you, gents.
You're more than welcome. So Excluded is looking at the negative side of social media. You know, we all use the damn beast all the time, all day, every day, and people think it is such this wonderful thing, but there is really a very, very dark side to it, and we're just trying to gather stories from people about how that's impacted on them. So, what's your experience been of it?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I'm 6'7", and I'm about to tell a story of woe and being bullied online.
Oh my God.
People are much more polite when they meet me face to face.
Yeah, I must say you don't look 6'7" on the screen. You don't look that tall at all. But
fair enough. Yeah. I heard it well. But so I have had some horrific stories on social media. Twice I've had people attempt to cancel me. Both times it's been while trying to organize a charity event, interestingly enough. So there's some weird pattern there. Wow. Yeah.
How very dare you.
And so I think it was one of those where 10 years ago when it first happened to me, it nearly broke me and probably took me 2 years to recover from. Yeah. And then a couple of years ago when it happened, I just went, oh, this again, get to fuck. Come at me, bro. Like, let's have it.
So the first time then, you were trying to arrange a charity event?
Yeah. So it was a children's orphanage out in Thailand. And some of the kids could play musical instruments. And we put together a concert, a mixture of like some of the kids playing in bands, and then a bunch of my friends who were in bands. And because there was political turmoil going on, a lot of concerts had been cancelled. So it was very easy time to contact the band and say, hey, are you free? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And the charity angle helped as well. And it also helped that I don't know any Thai celebrities. So I didn't know better than just to contact the biggest celebrities and ask them. And it was funny that one guy replied to me and said, look, I'm okay, but you need to pay my manager this. And I said, well, your manager can get fucked. Yeah. And then I Googled him afterwards and was like, I think I just told quite a famous guy to fuck off. But I said, look, you're taking food out of disabled orphans' mouths, right? Like your manager needs to look at himself. So anyway, very ambitious project. Got loads of volunteers. The thing grew out of the scope it should have, right? And everything got big and crazy, and we were getting press coverage. It was very exciting, and you do these charity things partly because you're a nice person, but partly because you want the glory.
Of course,
look at me, I'm nice. I'm a nice person, and that is where you attract the haters.
Yeah.
So to cut a long story short, an hour. The event hadn't even fully finished yet, right? And an hour after one of the volunteers from one of the charities had gone home, got on social media, mentioned as many volunteers as she could, just saying like, some of these people are trying to do good work, but it just all looks very suspicious to me. I'm not sure how they afforded this big concert with all these flashy bands. And I think they're stealing the money.
Wow.
Now, the major problem with this was, one, I was still busy running around sorting this concert out. It's a lot of work, right? And so I didn't read it for hours until I was going viral for the first time in my life. Yay.
For the wrong reasons.
Yeah. But the other thing is, like, when you do an event like this, so many of the costs are dependent on being covered by sponsors. Mm-hmm. And not all the money had come in from the sponsors yet.
Oops.
And then there's this big backlash on social media accusing us of stealing the money. So then the sponsors don't want to cover the costs.
Wow.
So then it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This woman's like, oh, well, and you're like, well, how am I going to raise money now that the sponsors have pulled out and I'm having to pay for this venue myself? So It was an absolute catastrophe, and I don't think I slept for 2 nights, and just stuck in this whirlwind of negative comments and hate, and people piling on, and how dare you do this to this disabled children's orphanage? Us just crying, being like, we just tried to do a nice thing. How has this gone so wrong?
And I suppose I don't know if do you talk Thai? Do you? Some of the comments,
not as well as I should. But yes.
Yeah. Some of the comments might not have been in a language that you could understand.
I just don't understand these people even when they're speaking English. I just don't know who. As I say, like the event hadn't even finished, and so to shout out, and it hurt us. But as I say, it hurt our ability to fundraise for the charities as well. It was just bizarre, and I think I took a lot away from that. It's the other side of the coin. When you do this charity stuff for clout and attention, right? There's the other side of that coin. There's people waiting for you to fail. Yeah. There's people that work for these charities that are very suspicious of people that are doing it for free. Rightly so, I've actually found. So during that charity event and another charity event I've done, a lot of people use it to clean their reputation, shall I say. It does attract some unsavory people. So I sort of understand why they were wary. But to call us out so vocally and so publicly, and where they really came undone is we were just an amateur operation of volunteers. Now, pros and cons with that. A lot of it was messy. A lot of it could have been handled better. We should have got the money from the sponsors earlier, maybe. But the positive was that when she accused us, she was accusing 80 people who'd put a lot of work in to make this thing happen, right? All the bands are like, sorry, am I being accused of what?
Wow.
So the first wave was horrific, right? All these people being like, what? And then me being worried, ignore her. I want to make sure her charity still gets the money. This was the horrible thing, right? But then the second wave of people coming to support me was lovely. But then that turned as well, and that became its own hate mob, angry at the first lot. And so then things were just escalating out of control. And I was like, oh, this is horrible.
God. It's like the snake eating its own tail, and it just goes round and round and round and round.
And it's very addictive, right? If you think the average day of Facebook scrolling's addictive, wait until you and your friends are getting cancelled, and then you start a fight and kick off on them, and then they come back at you, and everyone started digging into each other's past and posting incriminating photos about each other. And I was like, oh, this is all going very wrong.
Oh, this is a picture of Chris back in 1982. My word! Was there ever any thought that you might not be able to get out of town in one piece, or?
Mate, I honestly I don't want to get too dark or too serious, but I was 29. I only kind of did the charity concert because I was a bit depressed. I was going through a thing, right. And in my experience, that is the best way to pull me out. Okay. Nothing is, I've tried hedonism, right? Yeah. All the drugs and womanizing in the world you can do in a city like Bangkok wasn't making me happier. And I was like, I just need to do something nice for someone else because I am desperately unhappy. And would you believe it did not give me the validation and the pat on the back I was so desperately seeking. So, genuinely, there were moments where I was standing at the top of an apartment building being like, I'm massively in debt. I'm massively hated. Maybe I should take the quick way down. Wow. I don't know.
That really is a dark place, isn't it? How did you... Sorry, Dan, you're going to say then?
Yeah, I was just... Had she approached you offline prior to taking the pitchforkness
straight
approach
to
online?
100. She just went nuclear immediately.
Straight in the public domain. Yeah, and then that sounds like it sort of kicked off and then became its own echo chamber.
That's the feedback.
So it's like she threw the grenade into the room, shut the door with all of you in it, and let it go off. And that just seems nonsensical that she would damage her own charity, because the fallout of that is damage to the charity's brand, I suppose. Was there any of that from besides you getting the emphasis of this vitriol online was their damage to her charity.
Because I genuinely thought it was a great charity. Like, it's an orphanage that looks after mostly disabled kids, and does some great things with them. I think most of the people that work there are absolutely lovely. The problem is, like, she was a socialite, social media influencer type person. Right?
There it is.
Who was using this charity because it was a good excuse for her to meet famous people. Yeah, like, you don't complain when the organisers of the charity come in, but they want to sit in the VIP room with all the bands and the celebrities. And you're like, yeah, of course, like that's fine. Like, no problem. But you realise, like, the minimum wage the charity was paying her wasn't why she was doing the job, right? She was doing it to full time do what I was trying to do. Look at me, aren't I a nice person? Right? For the gram, right? Like, I don't want to judge her because I was playing the same game. Just she was a professional at it, and she saw me as an up and coming amateur and took a shot, I guess. To answer your question, the charity's still doing well, thankfully. But honestly, I can't be the only one that was put off from organising another fundraising event for them. I'll put it that way.
It sounds like she weaponized what she knows and used the tools at her disposal, for which she's, an influencer would be semi-professional in it. So she's going to take to that medium rather than do what somebody in a right mind would do, shall we say, is approach you directly and say,
show me some receipts.
Yeah, could we talk about this?
But that is the
rather than weaponize it to the online
social media, isn't it? It is about how easily it is to weaponize, how to be negative, to have direct contact with people, to badmouth somebody. The converses. Yeah, it's the keyboard warrior.
It's easy
the
to be keyboard
the
warrior.
Power of positivity in social media is that people can be praised and can be promoted and educated, but that doesn't seem to be the main drive for social media anymore. The main drive seems to be silly little dances and racism.
I mean, well, that's a very old man take, isn't it?
Hey!
Who are you following?
These young'uns with their TikTok and their dancing.
Their tic-tac. What is this tic-tac thing?
Well, I think it...
Yes.
The problem is it's two sides of the coin, right? The two are very related. So it was very easy for me to do an event, to mobilize volunteers, to reach out to celebrities and bands and sponsors. Like, it enables all these things. Communication's very quick. The links are there, right? And so as soon as you harness that, there's the other side of the coin. Because it's all interconnected, because everyone's watching, everyone's, okay, here's this person. Oh, who's he? Like, all right, he's getting a lot of attention and lots of selfies with these bands and stuff. Like, there's some people that want to take you down. And it is just as quick for that army you've mobilized to turn against you, because it's the flip side of the same coin, right? It's all connected. You've made the whole thing, all eyes on me, everyone look at this, attention. And it's just, as you say, very easy for someone to weaponize that. So its strength is its weakness, sadly.
Yeah.
Did you fight fire with fire, so to speak? So did you take your social media presence and retaliate, or was it more a step back? If I get involved with this, there is a danger it spirals.
I mean, had you been around 10 years ago, it sounds like you would have been giving me sage wisdom. How I should handle such a situation. 29-year-old me was sad and tired and furious and desperate to defend himself, and also desperate to make sure that this thing I'd worked really hard on for 2 months didn't lose money. I don't know how, like, what do you do when you've run a charity event and you're £10,000 in debt at the end of it because 2 sponsors have pulled out? But what like, is the charity going to give you that money? No. Clearly not. So this was it. Like, she made a self-fulfilling prophecy because she said that. Then I was like, they're like, well, where's my fucking money? And I'm like, Please hold.
Checks in the post.
While I contemplate jumping off this
Yeah.
apartment
I
block.
was going to say, because you're standing on the roof and it is obviously a very, very dark time for you. What was it that got you down from that point?
Well, this is, I don't want to say David versus Goliath, but it's sort of like, you know, she was one person with 10,000 followers.
Yeah.
And we were, you know, 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
So many volunteers it takes. People had put posters up or, you know, like convinced of their favorite band to perform, or, you know, we even had kids at school. Like we had a battle of the school bands. So there were a bunch of like, you know, school kids that had promoted the event and got people to come and raise money for the charities there. And I think, so we had the numbers, but the problem with that was like they would then just mudsling back and be like, "Oh, here's some shit you did," and then people would rush to defend her, and so they were well-meaning, but it was like smashing two wasps' nests together and being like, well, hopefully we fight fire with fire. This will make peace, right? No, surprisingly, it didn't. So I was mostly magnanimous. I made a few mistakes along the way. One of the things I said is, look, we're talking to sponsors. This has been an issue. And that was me trying to be transparent, but it showed weakness.
Yeah.
So she immediately contacted the sponsors and told them not to give me. I was like, okay, cool. And then, you know, the other thing was I said, look, when we get this money, we're going to distribute it in proportion to the support that the charities have shown us.
Oops.
Wink face. Because there were two charities involved, right? One was just super chill and lovely. And thanks for the concert. Sorry to hear you're having problems. Let us know if any money's coming. The other one did that. So it was, you know, horrific. Yeah. The actual saving grace, though, was an older, wiser guy who he'd come up and been running events before the age of social media.
Yeah.
But he had a background in media, press, right? And he was just amazing. Like, he was a legend. Shout out to Graham. My God, that man. So I'll go through how amazing he was. God, I'm going to get emotional. This really is like the cavalry that comes in at the 11th hour. So he writes this thing. He has a emergency meeting with me, goes through some accounts and goes, right, so if this sponsor doesn't come in, how much in the hole are you? Okay, writes it all down and goes, so if I donate this amount, we'll cover the costs and we'll say that we raised 15 quid per attendee at the concert. Does that sound about right? Cool. And everyone can do the maths. They saw how many people were at the concert roughly, and fine. So here's the message. We covered costs. The event organizers made some mistakes. We raised 15 quid per head. Am I happy with how he did this post, right? Tagging all of the people that were in the shitstorm before and saying, am I happy with how the organizers did everything? No, mistakes were made. But you expect that from a team of young amateur volunteers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they were doing the best they could in a difficult economic situation, not helped by some people on the other side, although I appreciate mistakes were made on both sides, right? And he just, you know, appeared to be like, I'm just here as an impartial third party arbitrating this and making sure the charity gets everything. So that was the post that just kind of smoothed everything over and got people to take her aside and say, shut up.
Yeah.
You've had your fun. Made everyone miserable. You're making the charity look bad now. He then did something which I'll never forget to this day. He organized an event. Bangkok's a big city, right? Organized an event of people that had also organized events and had it go horribly wrong. Like this. And there were just a bunch of 50-year-old dudes who had stories, like, just got up and were like, oh yeah, I ran this charity and then we spent this much and then a hurricane cancelled it last minute and we lost like $200,000 and got sued, and a bunch of people that have been accused from charity too. It was incredibly common on the occurrence. So it was like, wow. And this guy was just such a G.
Wow.
And he never told me how much money I owed him. I think it was 15 grand.
Wow.
And a few years ago, I've done well since then. And a few years ago, I was finally in a position to be able to pay him back. And I messaged him, and he was like, "What money? No."
Wow.
I was like, "Dude, I owe you a lot." He goes, "No, I don't remember that." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What a G."
Yeah. That's
Raise a glass to Graham.
Yeah.
He is an incredible man.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you for the 15 grand bonus as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up. So you survived that experience then by the skin of your teeth, by the sound of things.
Just about, yeah.
So do you come back to the UK at that point, and then you settle into the routine of normal life?
Pretty much, yeah. That was the end of my adventures in Thailand.
Yeah.
It was me being like, this is not working.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get a real job in a real country. No offense, Thailand.
And then you found yourself on the end of another would-be cancellation.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Wow.
What can I say? So during lockdowns, I got involved in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It was just a fun thing friends could do on Zoom, and we all needed to imagine a better life elsewhere. Yeah. So a bit of escapism, right? And so, yeah, through that, I found this guy in the Facebook groups I was in, a blind guy asking for help, how to get started with the thing. And I said, I'll help you, and sort of, helped him. And then he joined our weekly game, and sort of understanding the difficulties and how inaccessible a bunch of the websites were for that, and how easy they could be made accessible with a little bit of fine tuning. And I work in the software industry now. So I was like, okay.
Yep.
So again, a team of volunteers started forming, and we got together. You're all bracing. This is meant to be a positive story. I can hear you winking.
It's like,
I'll just go for a swim in the sea. It'll be fine. So
he thought once was enough.
Cancellation 2 this time. It's personal.
He's back.
No, the moral of the story is disabled people are evil, and you should never help them.
And just to add a disclaimer there are some disabled people who aren't evil.
There are some that are. Let's not be ableist. There could be a stupid
absolutely.
villain.
There are good and bad people, irrespective of race, creed, gender, ability. Yeah.
Disabled, abled. There are still
Oh.
assholes in either band.
So let's not go down that rabbit hole. So I was raising money, and again, like lockdowns, right? So another perfect time to reach out to these people and harness social media. Twitter was in its prime before Elon Musk made it worse. So you could just DM a celebrity and be like, "Hey, you like Dungeons and Dragons? Would you like to spend an hour doing it to raise money for again disabled kids?" And we had a team of blind and partially sighted volunteers raising money for disabled kids so they could game. Right, that was the message. Asking people to do something they already knew how to do. And got to remember, this is 2021. No one had anything better on that year, right?
No excuses.
And I do all sorts of hacks. Like my favorite was, do you know Cameo, where you can ask a celebrity? And that became so big partly because lockdowns, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't make money. So what I would do is the message I'd send them is, I don't want you to record a video. I want you to play in my charity game. Now they have a choice. They can either record a video saying, I'm not going to play in your game, and charge me the money. Charge money to a disabled charity.
Very good. It's really good. I like that.
But either way, they read the message, right? If you sent it to them, their PA would read it, filter it, and go, "Oh no, he's busy. Sorry." But then they get their phone out and they read it and they go, "Oh, fuck. All right, cool. Let's do this charity thing." So I had a bunch of people subscribe to this game, and Dungeons and Dragons, you can have like 6 people per table. So we had 2 days of games. Like it was this big thing. Bunch of celebrities. Raised a bunch of money, and I was like, this is awesome, this is amazing. No problem with the charities this time. They were lovely, they were involved, they was fully supportive. But it was just Twitter in its prime at plus lockdown. So you've got a bunch of bored people with axes to grind. And I think this is the pattern I noticed from before as well. these people normally have had a victory online. They historically were the hero once, and it went to their head.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sure with the last chapter, I'm sure there'd been some guy who was a malevolent force, and she'd chased him away, and had that moment after the football game where they raised her up on their shoulders, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm a goodie.
It's all about me."
There's nothing worse than an evil person that's convinced themselves they're a goodie.
No.
so
Donald Trump.
goes on. So this is what really happened, is that the event went fine. We had no problem. We raised money, but obviously we put all the videos online. And then the trolls came. And it was just incredible. The list of things. I think, let's put things in boxes. Let's be fair. Let's be nuanced. But we had 16 games, 8 people a game. Yeah. I'm bad at maths, but
it's 108, something like that.
Cool. People, right? Some of those people, would you believe it, had sometimes done something wrong in their past. And remember the era. Look, and fair enough, right? The Me Too movement, where necessary, but remember the first wave. It was like, oh, this person did horrific things to hundreds of women. Yeah. Oh my god! And then towards the end, you were like, oh, he once frowned at a puppy.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I think we're getting to the bottom of the barrel here.
What a bastard.
And this was it, this roving gang of like social media justice warriors. Came for me in my event and were like, one of the people, and the first thing was, I thought petty. Like she had asked some people to help her co-write a book and underpaid them and paid them late.
Okay.
So when this came at me, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, will you renounce Satan and all her evils? I'm like, look, like I didn't work for her.
Yeah.
She volunteered for a charity event raising money. I don't know the woman. I've spoken to her for less than 2 hours, but she did a nice thing for disabled kids. So no, I will not renounce her. Oh, that's a problem then. And back they came with like 200 more comments. Blah, 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 blah. And again, this is just the power of Twitter. I was able to harness how quickly this information spreads and how well connected the network is.
Yeah.
As were my enemies. A tool can be used. You can use a hammer for a nail or to smash in a puppy's head, depending on what sort of person you are, right? Like,
I haven't got any nails to hand, so
horrible metaphor. I apologize.
No.
But this is what happened. They were just, berating me, and again, like I had to remind them at a certain point. I was like, guys, to summarize, we are a team of volunteers, most of whom are blind or partially sighted, raising money for disabled children so they can play games. Yeah. Are you sure you're the goodies in this situation? Yeah. And that was the last thing I said before quitting Twitter.
I was going to say that would be pouring gasoline all over the fire, that wouldn't it? Yeah. Are you sure your moral compass is pointed in the right direction? And they would. Oh,
and then it wasn't just the work thing. She liked a tweet once from a guy that liked a tweet from a Nazi.
God.
How many Kevin Bacon degrees of separation are we going back here in this witch hunt? Like, and why should I care? Yeah. I don't care. She's one of 106 people that played a game
and did something very, very positive at that stage.
Over a year ago.
At that stage of her life,
She also used to be a porn star. Yeah. Didn't come up in the game. Not relevant.
No.
It's just like...
Not until she wanted that extra turn. And then she was like...
You've rolled a 16. Oh, have I?
What category of porn have you been watching?
Well, actually, no. I won't go there.
Today's sponsor.
Today's sponsor is You Dialed a 16.
dnddominatrix.com.
My favourite website. Oh, they are.
You can grind my axe.
Dungeons and Dragons. So did you actually Twitter or quit Twitter at that point then?
I did then.
Yeah.
But then the next year rolled on, and we had a bunch of celebrities who'd said yes, but couldn't do that day. And, like lockdown's still happening. So it wasn't like I had anything better to do. And, the business I'd made is starting to do well. So I'm like, look, sod it. Even if I don't have to deal with these Twitter trolls, I'll just donate myself and play Dungeons and Dragons with some celebrities. This will be fun. And this was it. Like, it was building, it was growing. They'd come at me once, it hadn't worked, so they came back. Right, blood in the water, Jaws too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then this was amazing because the first time we were just accidentally caught in a stray bullet, whereas the second time that we're now on someone's list. And look, I know that there are genuine people who have genuine grievances. And sometimes they handle that through court, and sometimes they handle that through the court of social opinion, whatever, right? Yeah. Not here to judge that. But I guarantee you there are Discord channels dedicated to let's make this person's life misery. On the left and the right, right? On whatever political cause they have. I think they're mostly apolitical. I think they're just looking for a fight. Yeah. And, and anything to make them feel good and them find the enemies. It was incredible because the first time, like I say, we caught one stray bullet. Yeah. The second time, because we were on their radar, they started looking at people. And so before the event was even over, drama was starting about people because they'd volunteered time to play for a children's charity event.
God. How many tweets do you think that were being fired at you at that time?
I mean, specifically at me,
or at the whole event?
Yeah, in the thousands. Wow, much more. But it's damning. But it's part of a whole storm, and it's just once the. Have you seen ants do a death spiral?
Yes. Yep.
This video is very haunting, and you notice that sometimes an ant just they follow a pheromone scent, right? And once an ant gets trapped in a circle and a critical mass of ants follow that, they will just circle till they exhaust themselves. Absolutely. And ant behavior mostly works. I think they outnumber us to a massive thing. Yeah. But sometimes it fails. And I think it reminds me social media of like when they invented cars before they invented seatbelts. Yeah. I think we'll look back in 20 years' time and be like, I remember when the internet was wild. Yeah. They just got away with this stuff. I think we're there in that there's just no safety guards. There's a bunch of bots. There's a bunch of... So what you often realize is you think you're debating in your head, some New York sophisticant, the prototypical liberal American.
Yeah.
I will cancel you. It's normally a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Who just has nothing better to do. Yeah. And is just trying to farm a few likes for a bit of a dopamine rush. Wow. That's the sad truth of it. So they went through every single person. This person had, sexually harassed someone according to these two people. Yeah, and I'm like, that's horrible. Obviously, I didn't organize this event to promote sexual harassment. But 106 people. Wow. So, imagine a pub being responsible for the history of every single person in that pub.
I'd been in the pub, yeah.
All pubs would close down.
Of course.
But the standard we were being held to is did you check their past? Did you interview every person they've ever dated?
Did you talk to the midwife?
No, because we're volunteers.
Yeah.
We don't have time to check these people. I'm sorry you're perpetually online and perpetually outraged, but I'm not. I have a job. It's just a nice thing on the side.
Yeah, it's the army of people that want to be offended. Irrespective of what it is, the subject, they will always search for something to be offended about.
Oh, and sorry, go for it. Yeah, Dad.
I think, Chris, you said a very good point, which is it's the dopamine hit. That's what every device we now use, every platform we use is for a dopamine hit. Everything is to trigger a good response to them. So even if that is a vile tweet that they throw into the ether, and you're right, it's not going to be a sophisticated, it's going to be a 15-year-old with his bag of Cheetos going, I did this, I did a really good thing, I told someone that they're a dick.
I was going to say, now we know what you were like as a 15-year-old. Thank you for
that. I could have watched this guy squirm. So you've got that going on, and it's all for dopamine. It's to make somebody feel good. I think the perfect analogy of what that person is in the series. I don't know if either of you watched it. What We Do in the Shadows is the vampire that is vampiric on
energy vampire,
and their anger and stress and everything. Vampire, that's it, thank you. So he has all these laptops open and he's just on Twitter arguing with people, and that feeds him and makes him stronger. And I think that is the perfect analogy of what these people are. But they all talk like this on their little keyboards, like that, like little T-Rex.
It really is crazy, because there's so little positivity in what they're doing. Yeah, the dopamine hit is very short-lived. And it just over and over, isn't it?
It's very easy to blame the individual for a systemic problem, right? So I work in tech, not in social media, but these platforms are well known for, it's kind of true, right? Like, if all they want to do is keep you on the platform for longer. And unfortunately, right, a nice picture of a puppy, you will smash like, but then you'll put the phone down and be like, that was nice. Yeah. I'm in a good mood now. I'm going to go about my day.
Yeah.
Look, there's a reason why these trillion-dollar companies give you a product for free, because you're not the customer, you're the product, right? Yeah. They want as many advertising eyes on advertisers as possible. And so controversy, arguments, drama feeds the algorithm, feeds the dopamine addiction.
It does.
And so we're all being trained by this. I've seen loads of like YouTubers who started off fairly benign, right? And then were in a bad mood and had a spicy, controversial thing, and that got 100 times the likes and comments, and they went, oh, well, that's exciting, right? Let's do more of that. And so people get pushed to the extremes. Yeah. It's not just like people are bad is the takeaway here. Yeah. We're on a platform that feeds bad behavior. Yeah. It's like going to a drunk driving racing demolition derby and being like, why is everyone driving so poorly? It's like, we're not here to drive well. We're not here to get along and play nice. Yeah. And, these people, I knew that the things they were saying online, as I say, not just because I'm 6'7", but I'm a big teddy bear organizing a charity event. They would never say that shit to my face.
No.
There's just no way. But in the safety of your keyboard, just they're like...
we did an episode last week. We're doing a feature on David Fincher films. And we did The Social Network last week. And I was saying that the way that the Facebook was set up with it as an amoral software platform, that Zuckerberg, and the way he was allowing his personality to bleed into it, or lack of personality, was really giving people permission to be the way they wanted to be. And I was contacted by Rob Jones, who's another podcaster I know, who said that it's kind of right, but don't forget society wants that Facebook was just a tool, that yes, the platform was kind of lazy and slightly evil, but then so is certain elements of society, and they fed each other. So, we end up with Twitter being an absolute cesspit.
Sure.
But again, to pick up on something Chris said earlier as well, is referring it to the Wild West. I mean, the disclosure, I work in social media, so I've been working it since... I know.
Sorry,
I know.
I'm
the dark side. And ironically, for someone that works within that field and within marketing platforms. I hate it. But we've been calling it the Wild West since 20 years ago. I don't think it's ever not going to be the Wild West, because when it's like fingers in the dam, you put your finger in that one. Oh, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. We need to put a finger in that one. Oh, Jeff Bezos is sending penis ships into the space. It's all these different things that it's just a juggling act, and we're going to be in it forever, because I think I mean, take Reddit as a good example. If you deep dive into Reddit, my good Lord, that's worse. Morgan,
there's some right wing.
Parler,
come here, like nothing is cancelable here, right? I don't even know.
Well, Truth Social.
But this is what happens when you get cancelled. Is these people reach out and would love to make you their darling, and I was always like, I don't know, I don't want that. I don't think this is a left-right thing. This is just a dickhead thing.
Yeah.
I love that. This is just a dickhead thing.
Yeah.
I love their party political.
And I'm not voting for the dickhead party ever again.
I just had this image of Nigel Farage coming forward and saying, "I am your father," and you're just like, no! I think anybody would jump off the cloud then, wouldn't they?
Have you tried therapy?
The hood over the top, I could see.
Christ, you need more than bloody therapy. So you survived 2 cancellation attempts. Were you doing stand up at the same time, or did you seek into stand up after that?
I think this is part of what led me there. Yeah. So no, I'll just say the difference between the two is that the first time I got defensive and reactive and messaging everyone and trying to get support of my peers, and that sort of kicked another hornet's nest. There was a second and third wave. My advice, the second time, what I did is shut people down hard and unapologetic. And you can imagine, like, I'm one of the older members of the team. A lot of our volunteers were like in their 20s and were like having meltdowns and crying. And I was like, guys, leave it with me. Yeah. I'm booting you all off the Twitter admin access. Like, I will handle this. And just cutting people down, not too funny. Because again, stand-up comic, I've got this instinct to be like, dial that down and just calmly and clearly shut people down.
Wow.
And a bit of humor, not too serious. Like I say, like with the counting the racist thing, like actually in public replying to that tweet and being like, these guys aren't colorblind, they're actually blind. just took a bit of the wind out of their sails. But then the key second thing, because you get again, it's the dopamine hit. Trust me, the only thing more addictive than a bunch of people applauding you and be like, well done for raising money for disabled kids, is a bunch of people being like, fuck you, you're racist, and one of the people on your panel is a sexual harasser. That is addictive. It's very hard to put the phone down when that's blowing up. So what I would do is just like go through, and the more reasonable, legitimate comment, like the guy that's just doing it for attention and saying something psycho nonsense, just ignore. Don't feed the trolls. The person that's like, you should have vetted these people, it's really upsetting, I'm a victim of this, you can't shut that down. Be like, fuck off. Like, just be like, look, I'm so sorry, but we're a team of volunteers and And after that, the strongest thing I did was just tweeted, thanks everyone, lovely successful event, we raised some money, didn't enjoy Twitter, like didn't enjoy that part of the experience. I'm gonna log out for the next few months, and just that, just put the phone down and walk away. It's horrible when you're in the middle of this drama, but I describe it, imagine you walked into a pub and 40 people in the pub were shouting abuse at you.
No thanks.
Don't stay in the pub.
No, go.
But that's what people do. They're like, I'm like, get out of the pub. Like, you're right, that pub is horrible and those people are dickheads. But step one, remove yourself from that situation. And it's different if you're a journalist and you live online, and that's what Twitter used to be for, right? But for me, the best thing I could do was just shut down the people that were obviously dickheads. be a show that I do have some compassion and nuance for the people that are like, oh, I don't like this person and it hurt my feelings. Okay, sorry to hear that. I do have feelings. I do have compassion. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And then log out.
Yeah.
Delete your account. Walk away.
Yeah. God. It does take some willpower to do that. You've said. So tell us then, how did you get into stand-up, and how much has those experiences influenced your stand-up style?
So I got up into stand-up because it was the only thing that scared me.
Nice. Yeah. Good call.
Like people bungee jump or skydive or whatever, that probably wouldn't terrify me as much as standing up on stage and failing to be funny in front of 30 people does. It's definitely informed it. So I cannot help walk the tightrope between the cancel culture stuff, older people who are just so angry, sweating gammons, just perpetually waiting to be triggered, and they claim the young'uns are sensitive. Oh my, come on! We've all said the wrong thing to our dads and just watched the fuse be lit and be like, "Oh, he's sensitive now." Jesus.
Throw the grenade in the room and walk out.
But likewise, we all know young people who pomp and self-importance, and I just want to prick that bubble. So my stand-up really is trying to walk that line.
Nice.
That impossible tightrope.
Yeah.
Being like, we're all in it together. Young'uns, you're not the first generation to think you are the martyrs who will save the planet. And think everyone older than you is an evil Nazi. Yeah. Like, it's okay. And so, that really informs my stand-up there. Whereas I want to walk that tightrope. Yeah. I don't want to offend anyone. I genuinely want us to laugh together. Yeah. At ourselves mostly,
Nice.
Yeah, I don't mind the odd offensive joke, but I think that's my age more than anything else. Yeah. So where can people find you then, Chris? On social media? Do you have an Instagram account? Do you have obviously you're not on Twitter anymore, are you? Surely.
No. Well, X as it's now called. No. No, the best thing, if you go to bangkok-comedy.com, if anyone ever visits Thailand, come visit the comedy club there we have on Khao San Road and have a good time.
Fantastic. And are there any shows locally coming up that you want to promote?
No, I'm good, man. Like, if anyone is a comedian and likes this, I don't know, put a link in my socials in the comments.
Yeah, we'll do, yeah.
Yeah, very, very much would like to, just support comedians. Also, if anyone's ever recently been cancelled,
we'll
happily form a support group.
Yeah,
I think drama.
Yeah, I think the world needs that. I think
don't jump off the balcony. It does get better.
It does, yeah. I've got a big thank you for you, Chris, because obviously you've taken a leap of faith with us with this kind of new format for the show. So thank you from me. And Dan as well. So thanks, Chris. You've been a most educational and most entertaining guest. Thank you very, very much.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, James.